If they don't, we keep sliding down in this cesspool of corruption in Washington, D.C., and they will take care of us. I guarantee you. This country has been asking for the federal government to take care of us, and you know what? They will. And believe me, you don't want them to. Now, let's be real specific here, and I'm probably going to write a second edition to this really soon, because I think that the thing that I always say in my talks should probably be in here. And that is, what does a constitutional sheriff look like? Okay, and I want to put this into historical perspective for you, so that you will know that the example set by some people already in this country is something that we should be applying locally. Okay? And this is it. In 1959, what was going on in our country? Segregation. And do you know that segregation was actually endorsed by the United States Supreme Court at one time? Saying it's proper, good, it's okay, everything's fine. And that law enforcement was actually enforcing segregation. Okay? And so when Rosa Parks got arrested on the bus, what should have happened if we had constitutional guards? Okay? Now, again, stay focused here on the principle involved. Don't worry about the rumors about Rosa Parks or who she really was or what she really did or that she was tied with anybody else or subversive groups or conspiracy theories. Remember, use this stuff for our paradigm shift. That's what we're doing. Remember, we're staying focused on that. Okay? So the sheriff is at the office when the bus driver made the call on the payphone to the sheriff's office. He's there. He hears it. This is a constitutional sheriff. He tells the deputy, I want you coming with me and I want you to know how to handle this call in the future. The deputy thinks, oh, Rosa Parks in trouble now, isn't she? Yeah, she's in for it. The sheriff's going to show me how to handle this lady. So the sheriff and the deputy arrive and get on the bus, and he sees the lady and he says, ma'am, what seems to be the problem here? And she goes, why can't we just be left alone? Sound familiar? Randy Weaver just wanted to be left alone. We saw what happened to him. And he goes, you know what, Mrs. Parks, I think you're right. He says, do you mind if I sit down next to you? And she's going, uh-oh, you know, she's very suspicious, of course. He sits down to her and he shakes her hand. And he says, Mrs. Parks, where do you get off the bus? She goes, 2 stops up on Elm Street. And he goes, do you mind if I get off with you? She's getting even more suspicious. Well, yeah, I guess that's all right. Yeah, you know. So he gets off with her. The deputy's in tow, and the deputy's wondering, well, when's he going to lower the boom, you know? And they get off the bus, and he goes, Miss Parks, it's kind of late. Do you need to get some hamburgers for you and your husband? She goes, yeah. He goes, come on, let's go over to the all-white restaurant and get some burgers and sandwiches for you and your family. So they go in there, and the sheriff makes sure she gets served them real quick, too. She gets them, and she takes them home. He walks with her going home. He goes to her house. And Mr. Parks comes out and says, what's up? And he says, well, hey, Mr. Parks, I'm Sheriff Mack, and, or Sheriff Jones. Let's not use me. There was a little trouble. He says, do you have a gun in the house? And Mr. Parks says, well, yeah, sure, of course I do. He says, is it loaded? He says, yeah, I keep my shotgun loaded. He said, good. There might be a little trouble tonight. He turns to his deputy and says, you make sure you give extra patrol all night long and make sure the next shift does so as well. Every 15 or 20 minutes you're to drive by here and make sure nobody's throwing rocks or doing anything else stupid, because this is going to get out that she was a troublemaker tonight. And he says, Mr. Parks, you keep that shotgun real handy, and you guys give us a call if there's any trouble. My dear friends, that's a constitutional sheriff. And today, that constitutional sheriff does the same thing for Rosa Parks, the gun owner, or Rosa Parks, the rancher, or Rosa Parks, the landowner, or Rosa Parks, the homeschooler, or Rosa Parks, the tax protester, or whatever else it may be. Do you know what? I finally came up with the answer watching Ron Paul and his campaign. Maybe some of you got this. But he finally said what actually made sense. I was trying to always come to grips with, what do we do to replace the federal income tax? You know, sales tax, flat rate, national sales tax, what do we do? And when he said, I would abolish the IRS and abolish the federal income tax and replace them with nothing. Of course. Thank you, Ron Paul. So then, where can we really make that happen? The states can make it happen. And I can't wait to see it. I know it can happen. I know it can be done. I would even love to see a sheriff say, you know what, folks, I'm not going to pay my federal income tax anymore. Who's joining me? And until we have honest constitutional government in Washington, D.C., I'm not paying them any more of my money. And then if they'll put back a economic system constitutionally backed by gold and silver, then I'll start again maybe. And not until then. And this education process and this paradigm shift keeps going. Now, none of you take that to your sheriff first thing, right? Okay. But I'm telling you where this thing's going to go. But remember, what's the principle here? KISS. Keep it simple. That's why the book is simple. That's why it's there. That's why it's your tool. Remember, you can get 5 of them for that silver coin today. Okay? Get them out there. Okay? Spread this. Yeah, we've been really doing and moving, getting 10,000 of these out. Now in the next 4 months, it needs to be 100,000. We have some states that haven't ordered any for sheriffs. We only have about 5 states that have all the sheriffs covered. Wouldn't it be great if every sheriff ends up getting about 3 or 4 or 5 of them? You think by the 5th time he might get the message? So let's not worry about who's got them. Let's worry about, let's make sure ours has them and keep going from there. Maybe there'll be 5 or 6 or 7 in the office and they'll be passing them around. We'll be educating everybody. This paradigm shift that we're moving and this movement that we're taking across the country has got to move along here with some haste. I don't think we have much time left. Some of these things are going to be irreparable if we don't move along. We're talking about saving our country here. Isn't it amazing? I'm going back to this oath of office now. Isn't it absolutely astonishing that the people who have sworn that oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution, when you ask them about that they'll say, either pragmatically or they'll just flat out tell you, it's not my job to uphold and defend the United States Constitution. Well, just what in the hell did you take your oath for? Maybe it was kind of like me when I took mine. Everybody can change, huh? I did. And I know this can happen. And not everybody's going to get hit over the head with the epiphany that I got with that lady in the dilapidated old Datsun. But that's where you come in. And now it's your turn to be the lady in the old Datsun. You've got to take this and have an epiphany with your sheriff and your servants. And if he's not going to come along, like it looks like one of the sheriffs that we were in his county this past weekend, then we find somebody who runs against him, and we get the people on board, and we get all the Rosa Parks together, and all the gun nuts and tax protesters and everybody else in the county, and we're going to say, you know what? We're going to elect a sheriff who isn't going to allow our homes to be taken by the criminality of the IRS. And we're not going to do this anymore.